This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A very good morning to you all. The start of a working week. It is Monday and we're just watching the sun rise high in the sky as we listen to the sounds of the bush. And that can only mean one thing, that it's time for your live safari. Welcome on board, everyone. The sun is already quite high, but we've just been watching it go up, and it's a beautiful morning here in Djuma Game Reserve, one of many locations for your live safari. And it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Another pleasure is that we have Mr. Theo back on camera. Yay! And my name is Lauren. Today, it's an all-girl team here in Djuma. So all round, it's a fantastic day, and I'm very, very excited. Now, I am on my way to the hyena den, as I'm sure you all know, so I better move. The higher that sun gets, the less chance we have of seeing the hyenas. So before I forget, this safari is live and interactive. You must talk to us. Send in your comments and questions, and I very much look forward to answering them all. You just head over to the website now, wildearth.tv, and you can register and ask your questions there. So I think it's 19 degrees Celsius and 66 degrees Fahrenheit here. So it's rather pleasant. I'm sure within an hour or two, I will be complaining and it will no longer be pleasant. It will be far too hot. So we managed to see the cubs yesterday. I think it was in Gwazi, actually, in one of Hart's cubs at the den. So they're still using den number 3. There's just no adults, which means we can't spend time there. And I think this is too late. The vehicles are out. It's a little bit too late. I think they've gone more nocturnal, but I'm still going to try. Patience pays off out here in the bush. And one day I'm going to arrive and they're all going to be feasting on a delicious carcass. So that's exactly where I'm heading. Wish me luck to find an active hyena den.
Good morning and welcome to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. As you can see, we've got a beautiful morning around us. A little bit of cloud cover keeping it nice and cool. We've managed to find these 2 wonderful giraffes right outside our lodge. My name is Kim, and behind the camera we have Craig, and we'll be with you this morning. Quite a stunning morning. You can hear all the birds starting to call. And it's really lovely to see a pair like this. Now, those of you who are avid watchers of the show, I'm sure you've actually seen this group before. We did find a very young giraffe, probably about a month or so ago, that still had its umbilical cord. And I'm pretty sure this is the same one. You know, we can't see the umbilical cord anymore, which means it's now older than 6 weeks. I'd actually say it's maybe 2 months, even 3 months old. Yeah, probably more, 3 months. Could even be a little bit older. They grow incredibly quickly. But you can see, I can just barely see behind the mother's legs that her teats are still swollen, which means it's still suckling. And they'll suckle for about 6 to 8 months. You know, they'll be weaned anywhere around then. So we know it's at least younger than that. And you can see this mother is really enjoying this Vacalia tree. We are going to go off to another section of the reserve this morning and see what we can find there. So we're going to leave these giraffe to carry on feeding, and I'm sure we'll be with you shortly.
Oh, all the best, Kim. I hope that you will be able to find all the things your heart desires here on Djuma. I'm very, very happy to be back with you all. And look at that lovely vista. Isn't that nice? It's so pretty. I always find then when you're at Djuma, the first thing you want to do when you get back, hi everyone, it's me, TRISHALA. The first thing you want to do when you get back is just reacquaint yourself with Djuma and just be happy about it. I hope you are all well, and I hope that my wonderful cameraman Gert is also very well. Are you well, Gert? Very good. I'm so happy, everyone. I really, really am. It's one of those days. It's really beautiful, wonderful morning, and the plans for today are not particularly solid. We're just going to kind of bumble about and look for some of the small things, and then obviously, you know, if we find a spotted cat or a hyena, that would be great too. But for now, we have this wonderful vegetation and these really, really nice Natal. Look at these grasses with this nice fluffy tops. They're called Natal red tops. And it's got that wonderful sunshine coming through. I'm just saying good morning, TRISHALA and friends on safari. Good morning. Bev, you're enjoying this as much as I am. I'm very glad about it. Well, we're going to head up north. We're on Gallagher Shortcut at the moment. It'd be lovely if we could see the hyenas. I think Lauren is checking out the den, but they have been, or at least the adults have not been around very much. So we're just going to come through here, maybe have a look at the Gallagher Shortcut den and see if there's any action there. But apart from that, I want to see some elephants. I want to see some chameleons. I want to see some dung beetles. I want to see everything from the big and the small. Can you hear? It's the greatest silence on earth. A few birds, a few insects. And the air is so fresh. But already, it's getting warm. My palms are already a little bit sweaty. When we started, it was, 19 degrees Celsius, 66 degrees Fahrenheit. And Marianne, you say the lighting is just beautiful. I see you've got an eye for camera work now that you've been watching. Wonderful. I'm very happy. It is. This is the golden hour. This and about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, it's probably changed now because I've been away for a while. But at that time, it's just really, really golden. No matter what you shoot, it's going to just come out beautifully. I can't think of a better way to start the morning than to be able to watch the sunrise, a cup of coffee, and listen to the sounds of the bush. Very nice. All right, well, shall we head off and see what we can find? You know, I've been thinking about chameleons for a long, long time, as I do. They're always on my mind and while I was away, I was looking for some chameleons in my garden. Unfortunately, I was not very successful. So today, I'm going to have to look in my much larger garden for those chameleons.
Welcome back, Trishala. It's really nice always nice to come back to the bush. You can see we actually decided to stay with these giraffe for a little while. This little one on the left is being so sweet. Just walking around. You can see that the difference between the young giraffe and the older one is that the young one is certainly not spending much time feeding. You can see as we've been watching them, this mother has been feeding the entire time, whereas her little one has just been walking around, not spending too much time feeding, and that's because a large portion of the diet is still going to be that milk. So you'll often see that young animals, and probably one of the reasons why we love watching them so much, is that they are so curious because they've got so much more energy and can spend a lot more of their time doing other things. What I'm seeing about this female here is look how she's resting her front leg. You know, giraffe don't often lie down. They can during the night and rest their legs for a little bit. But you can imagine, you know, they're quite heavy animals. So there's a lot of weight that's going onto those 4 hooves and 4 long legs. So when they get a chance, they just lift one up, take the pressure off for a little bit, and then put it back down. This is a really good example of how they feed. Random spot, it's such a beautiful pair. I completely agree with you. I love your name. I wonder if you are a giraffe fan. I myself am quite a fan of giraffe. I do think they're incredibly interesting creatures of the bush. And one of the things I really love about them is that, just like she's doing now, look at this. They actually pay you a little bit of attention. So that's why I really enjoy stopping and watching them. When we're busy training, we get set routes that we walk around the reserve on. So we'll start in sunrise and we'll walk until late that afternoon. And we've got to follow those routes. And it's just to get used to your own awareness and to really trust your own instincts, because you're going to inevitably come across some potentially dangerous animals and you're just going to have to trust your instincts. And it gives you a lot of confidence when you are then qualified in walking guests one day. And one of my favorite memories was coming across a giraffe that found me so interesting and followed me for the longest time. And I was incredibly tired. It was a really hot day. And eventually I just sat down and this giraffe stood there watching me, and we had quite a lovely long moment together. And eventually the giraffe stomach actually rumbled and I looked at it. And I promise you it looked like it was embarrassed. It walked away as if to say, no, that wasn't me, into the bush. And it had been following me for a good half an hour before that. So I thought that was quite a fun interaction. Oh, look at just behind that giraffe. Common buzzard just flew into the tree just behind it. Lovely to see those birds back. So now we really are going to leave these giraffe. We're going to head off into that area I was talking about, and we're hoping to find some rhino, some buffalo this morning, and perhaps just explore a different part of the reserve for a little while.
Jumbo everyone, a very good morning and welcome to our side of the world. We're in Masai Mara, East Africa, Kenya, and it's a cold, chilly morning. We've had rain from yesterday afternoon until around 6 o'clock this morning. But I have come out here and I have Olalashe. He looks very cold, desperate, and he's just looking around. I think he's trying to find some of his girlfriends. Yes, Jambo everyone, my name is Isaac and on camera I have Bungei. This morning our mission was to find some lions and maybe continue finding, the city. It's quite chilly, around 16 degrees Celsius, but still very beautiful to be out here. About 20 minutes ago, visibility was almost invisible because of mist, but now it's clearing and it just looks beautiful. Remember to talk to us on #WildEarth. Also, you can send in your kids' questions at kidsquestion.tv. kidsquestion@wildearth.tv. Pardon me. And also at FC. It is another wonderful morning. Olalashe is just moving his head around, trying to locate some of his girlfriends. In case you don't know, Olalashe and Kijana are the main and dominant males of the Olololo Pride, and they have been hanging around here for over a month now. We know him because he came in from the north, from a pride called the Tswalu Pride, and he moved over. He had a brother. I don't know the history of the brother, but they took over a pride called the Owinos, and then after that they came and took over the Princess Suite. Jambo, lovely misty morning. Yes, it is very beautiful, quite different for the Mara. We rarely get this, but it's much welcome. There is a lot going on with weather nowadays, and this could be part of it. It's very strange, but luckily it's clearing so that we can enjoy this good morning. Well, he is, in partnership with Kijana, who is not very far, but I haven't seen him. I just heard a word that he was seen and then he moved further down. These guys haven't actually mastered how to hunt by themselves. I've never seen, Olalashe or Kijana doing a hunt. So they're very desperate. I can tell by the way he was lifting his head and trying to scan the area, trying to locate the females, maybe so that they can follow them. So when they make a kill, they will take it off the lionesses or they will share it with the lionesses. It does happen so that every time the females kill and the males take the kill, they usually leave the males while eating and sneak away, especially when something is really small. They will sneak away, so whatever they get is enough for them. And I think this is what happened here. They knew that if they continue being with the two males, every time they kill a warthog or something, that's not big, the males will take it. So they decided to move on. They sneak away and they try to be less vocal. You rarely hear them, vocalizing, unless they kill something big. And with that, they are able to, to feed themselves as much as possible. And this is the case here. Olalashe and Kijana are very desperate, try to locate the girls. I cannot blame the girls. I think they deserve to eat sometimes. Okay, let's take you to another live location.
Now, we didn't get very far from where we were, and that's because I'm getting a bit hyperactive and I'm stopping whenever I see anything. And then I stopped at this white berry bush because it's a white berry bush, and I love white berry bushes, a Flugia verosa. That's the scientific name or the Latin name, and as you can see, it's got tiny little white berries. So generally, it's quite an inconspicuous plant, but as soon as these white berries start to come up between kind of December and March, then it's just stunning and very, very noticeable. And they're quite sweet, and I like to eat them. Of course, I will demonstrate that to you. Actually, I'll do it right now. We'll try and get the whitest ones, because the whiter they are, the more ripe they are. So they have large seeds in them, though. This one has 2 large seeds. Excuse me. There we go. 2, 3, 3 large seeds in them, but they're really nice and sweet. And lots of frugivores, that are animals that eat fruit, love this bush at this time of year. So that means things like baboons, monkeys, civets. They'd be looking for places like these to eat these fruits. Also great go-away birds, lots of birds that love fruit, mouse birds as well. They'd be going after this plant. Now the other interesting thing to look at when you're at a whiteberry bush is that it is the larval host of the Charyx butterflies. So we can look very carefully and maybe we'll see a chrysalis. Well, that's what I've been trying to do, but unfortunately I don't see any at the moment. They're quite obvious. They're round with a bit of a point and they hang like most chrysalises do. But I don't see, at least I don't think I see any. No, I don't. So when we stopped here, apart from this, you may not be able to, well, it's very difficult to see, but there's quite a large bark spider's web. Kind of like that. So I'm going to stand back so I don't damage it, even though the actual spider is quite little. But down here there's something interesting too. Safari kitty, you say everything looks so lush and green. It certainly is, and that's why when you stop, and that's why bushwalks are so amazing, when you stop just for a moment and just watch, without the car moving and the sounds of the car, there's so many things to pick out. I stopped because of the whiteberry bush, and then we ended up finding, look at these, tiny little nymphs of some sort of orthopterid, that is basically grasshoppers, locusts, katydids. All of them fall into that order of insects. And look at them, they're tiny, 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 and obviously they've been eating away at this red bush willow. Ah. Enthusiastically Dawn, that is a very, very good question. You'd like to know, how can we tell the edible berries from the poison berries? Firstly, always assume that they're poisonous unless you know them. I know this tree, and I've known it for the last couple years, and we've had these berries, and apart from that, I have a book, a reference book that tells me that this particular tree has no mimics, so there's nothing I can mistake it for, and then I can eat those berries. That being said, if you were in your random place in the park somewhere and you come across a berry, firstly, don't eat it. If you do desperately want to eat it, you need at least about 3 days to figure out whether it's something that you can eat or not. What you want to do, you want to take it first and rub it on your skin, and then figure out if you're going to get a reaction to it. Then you wait 24 hours. No reaction? All good. Sorry, I heard a breaking of a branch earlier, and I just thought I heard it again. That would be an elephant. So 24 hours, you want to rub it on your skin. No reaction? All good. Then you want to move on to rubbing it on your lips. And then you wait 24 hours, no reaction, still good. Then, I can hear the elephant. I'm just going to jump back into the vehicle. It's just when the bush is very, very thick, the elephant might be closer than I know. I don't want that, and I don't want you to see that either. So, after you've done the skin test and you've done the lip test, then you want to try and cook the berry or boil it and then eat it, and then hope that nothing happens to you. And after that 3 to 4 day affair, you can be sure that the berry is not going to kill you. That, believe it or not, is the short answer to your question. Like with mushrooms, you know that I really like mushrooms. Like with mushrooms, you must always assume that it is unsafe to eat them, because the poisons may vary from, just giving you an upset stomach to killing you. So it's always important to be very, very, very cautious. Anyway, I'm now going to go search for this elephant that we heard cracking some branches.
Good morning from misty Masai Mara. Beautiful morning. We have a big elephant bull. My name is Tim, and behind camera we have Big Jim. This male big elephant is just resting here. He had a very long night. And I think at the moment, he's just taking a rest. Look at how big he is. One broken tusk, the one to the left. That is usually the most used tusk. And because of his size, I can say that has not only come from him peeling barks of trees and maybe digging for water, but for hierarchy and dominance, these bulls have to come into a fight. And because he must be in a dominant or status, he once fought, or maybe he's fought countless times because that tusk has broken. And you find that that's the tool they use to defend themselves, to fight against other bulls. And also it's used to peel barks on trees and also dig for minerals and for water. He's looking black because it's been raining all night. And you can tell he's not too hot. He's just flapping slowly. So he's much relaxed at the moment. Very slow fanning there. So such bulls will associate themselves with cow and calf groups randomly. And you find that they will always be analyzing the status of females who might be in estrus, who will be sexually receptive. So females always prefer such big bulls for stronger genes. So the age of these bulls will also increase the reproductive success in natural conditions. So they normally start becoming in mass when they're about 25 years old. And that is when most of the females will always be eager to mate with such big bulls. I can see the background of a giraffe, and the giraffe is not by himself. There's lots of giraffes around there. So as I position to go and watch those giraffes, let me take you over to another live there.
It's a peaceful morning here in the Lowveld, nice and cool breeze. The impalas just moving on from where they were resting in the evening to go and start feeding somewhere in these big, huge clearings that we call impala plains. It's a wonderful morning. What else might be around? Who knows? There's always such mystery in the mornings. Hi everyone, my name is Mike. Behind the camera is BK, and you've joined us at Pridelands Conservancy. So here at Pridelands, we went to get our vehicle this morning to go on our beautiful safari, and we found some leopard tracks in this area somewhere. With the leopard tracks. Oh, sorry, my bad. Oh, beautiful mountain, hey? Gorgeous mountain. So we found some leopard tracks, and we decided to come and check this area. We haven't found the leopard itself, but we found these impalas, which are the most beautiful leopard food. So let's hope that there's a leopard around here somewhere. Might just be looking to get a little early morning snack. We also saw a herd of female impalas. The ewes, these are all rams heading off, and we saw BK and I yesterday the first impala lamb that we've seen of the season. Just one, obviously one of the ones, the females that mated. Oh, this one's got a limp. Look at that, eh? He will be a prime candidate for a leopard snack. Hopefully he's just a bit stiff from maybe a cool night sleeping on that leg. Let's hope. But yeah, we saw the first impala lamb, so hopefully there's more going to be born soon, and then they'll be abundant. And it's always such a nice time of year to watch the impala lambs learning how to walk and how to be impalas. So all these rams, they hang around in this open area because it's much easier for them to spot danger approaching from a distance. And they've got incredible eyesight and sense of smell and hearing. So for them, This open clearing provides them an awesome opportunity to stay safe during a cold, dark night.
Well, from impalas and back to what it impalas. Lions, the top apex predator of these plains, can sleep like no other animal without a care in the world. Other animals would rarely sleep like this because over here, you snooze, you lose. And so you have to be very, very careful. You have to be on your toes, but the lion doesn't care even 1 minute. The only animal that would actually chase a lion from sleeping like this would be rhino and elephant. But because of their hearing, they would hear them coming from a long way, and so they would actually just leave without those animals noticing. Olalashe, like I was saying, the girls have decided not to be with him for the last almost, I think, about a week. And earlier on, he looked very desperate. He was walking up the road and he was looking around trying to locate his girlfriends. I said they always, try to sneak away, and so whatever they kill is enough for them. I've never seen Olalashe killing, but when they go together, when they find one another, they might be forced either to look for something big, like a buffalo, MJ, you wish you could sleep like that. Well, of course, you can do it, but in the safety of your home, you can do it without any issue, because over here, you would become a snack very quickly. So, do it, MJ, at home. Yes, and sleeping like this means that he is very relaxed. Nothing is worrying him. He doesn't look that hungry, but he has to find those, females. I think the rain and the dew in the grass does affect scent marking, making it very difficult for them to locate one another. So right now, they might be using sight to locate one another, because marking, unless you really mark it by using a lot of urine to make it embed in whatever you're putting it on. So, it's very, very difficult for them. I think Olalashe looks like he's going to be here for a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is continue on, see what else I can find.
Welcome back to the other side of the Mara, where our giraffes are slowly just walking from bush to bush because of the freshly sprouts on the leaves there. They're quite much enjoying, and you can see that giraffe is watching a salvo just on the ground there. The salvo is just on the bottom of our left screen, jumping up around. Very, very beautiful. What a beautiful salvo there. She's out on the morning hunt, because in such mornings you find that the rats or the mice sometimes can be active, and it's a good time to hunt. They're strictly nocturnal, but in times of the days when they don't have food, or maybe searching for food, walking through their territory, they can be seen at times like this. They have very long ears to listen on what's happening on the ground there. Specially adapted ears and very long legs that help them to jump whenever their prey is flushed out from the grass. Look at how she's leaping. Very, very nice.
Welcome back to Untitled Private Game Reserve. So, as you can see, we've been very lucky this morning. On our way to go and explore another area of the reserve, we actually managed to come across a whole pride of lion lying in one of our quarried areas. Beautiful sight. I mean, you can just imagine the sun starting to come up. These lions are right out in the open. Sort of a Lion King moment going on here. And what's really exciting to see, any viewers who've been adamant watchers of the show would have known that we had a bit of conflict with this pride and a coalition of males from the north of our reserve. First time they'd ever come down this far, and there was certainly some sort of interaction. This pride was seen the next day with only 3 of the cubs, and the 2 lionesses looking very alert, very close to where the males were found that morning as well. And we thought maybe they had managed to kill 2 of the cubs, as males of coalitions that aren't dominant over a pride will do. The reason they do that is because these lionesses, while their cubs are still this age, they cannot go into estrus, so that means they cannot produce cubs of their own. So males will kill the cubs because 1, they could grow up to be competition for them, and 2, if they took over this pride in this area, they would want to mate with the females and pass their own genes on. And they wouldn't be able to do that until these cubs were about 1.5 years. Now, these cubs being born in January are only 11 months now, so not quite there yet. But as you can see, it's happy days because I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little faces. So all the cubs are found and accounted for. What probably happened was there might have been a bit of a chase and they did scatter and ran off in all different directions. A few days ago we found 4 of the cubs together and we thought, okay, well, maybe 1 didn't make it, but now all 5 have been found. It's actually quite sweet. The lionesses went into these mountainy areas behind us. We haven't seen this pride for a few days, so maybe they followed the scent of one of the cubs right into the mountain areas and brought it back out into the open. Anna Marie, no, this isn't our Biala pride. Our Biala pride consists of 3 lionesses, and 1 has 3 sort of sub-adult males. You can see that they've got prominent manes already, and another lioness has two smaller cubs that are slightly younger than these ones. And this is our mountain pride. So our mountain pride has 4 older lionesses, of which we can see 2 here. The other 2 are potentially denning at the moment. And then we've got 2 sub-adult lionesses and these 5 cubs. And that will make up our mountain pride for the south of the reserve. But you were very correct when we're talking about Biala pride and mountain pride. Those are the 2 prides that we have in the south of the reserve here. And they will be in different sections. Obviously, with lions, the territorial behavior is always against members of the same sex. So lionesses are territorial against other lionesses, and male lions are territorial against other male lions. So these prides would, have separate territories, and if they did see each other or crossed into the other's territory, there would be quite a battle and a territorial conflict. And quite interestingly, where they are at the moment is sort of on the boundary of those 2 territories. If they were to move any more west, they would actually be crossing into the territory of that Biala pride. And obviously that's something they want to avoid with these 5 youngsters. These cubs are still really young, like I said, 11 months old. They're not going to be much help in a fight. Now what I wanted to point your attention to is, you see there's that one cub on the far right. He's very interested in some giraffe behind us. paying quite a bit of attention there. We're going to spend a little bit of time with this pride and see what they get up to this morning.
It's a very lovely morning at the Wiggs house. Not unfortunately, it's lovely to see you, Mrs. Wigg. But I would like to see your chick. Now, Olivia is just behind Mum. Far too large to go sort of underneath Mum's breast now. She's behind, and I think James got so lucky yesterday with Olivia. We switched sightings due to signal issues, and Olivia appeared to be sort of really upright. I can't tell if she was squatting or standing. Some of you sent wonderful screenshots. Thank you so much. But I really, really can't tell. We need to know, is she standing up on those two legs, or is she still very much squatting? I wonder if I reverse back, do you think we'd get a little bit of a better view? Okay, I'm just going to reverse back maybe half a meter. Shall we try this? I think they are the most relaxed and habituated spotted eagles. Mrs. Wigg is used to this. She's used to the car. She thinks, oh, what do these people want now? But of course, it's now the 7th, no, what's the date? It's the 16th, sorry, the 16th of November. So I think Olivia is really reaching that day 16 mark now. From the screenshots that I was able to view yesterday, you can see that her whole entire feather structure is changing. Obviously, her eyes are wide open. We know that already. And she's starting to stand. So I really, really believe that she's around that 16-day mark, give or take. And apparently she vomited for you all yesterday, which is delightful. Nature lover, I've never seen that. Mum does do that, but we've not managed to witness it, I'm afraid. We can see that Mum's guarding, she's defending, she's protecting. And we've also seen Mum leave. I think yesterday James and Niels could hear Mum calling. She was nearby, and that's the start of the process of getting Olivia to sort of reach, to be independent, but staying nearby, and they'll remain in constant communication through verbal communication, through calling. And I think that, sorry, that looks make me laugh. Are you okay there, Mama? I think she's had a rough night. But yes, so remain in constant communication through calling, and that process has already started. So we're really, really getting there and learning all about Olivia. She's huge. She's remarkably large, and I had a lovely chat with Rexon yesterday, just catching up. We were trying to confirm whether the bird we saw was Step or Tawny. And also, he told me that when we first found Sebwig last year, he had actually seen the nest previously, and there was 3 chicks. There were 3. Can you believe it? I did not know that story. And of course, when we arrived, we only found 1. So unfortunately, we don't know what happened to the others. But I think we're going to sit here a little while longer, then we're going to assist in tracking a female leopard.
I wish us success to find the leopard. Well, here our small cat that all sometimes from a distance can be mistaken to be a leopard is Osavo, who's still hunting, looking for morning breakfast. I can hear the yellow-throated longclaws alarming. Most of the times when we're driving through this savannah, when you hear the yellow-throated longclaws calling, alarming, jumping up and down, I have come to realize that they must have seen a Osavo, and that's evident this morning because I can hear them alarming. But the rufous-nipped lark is melodiously whistling. So this Savo has to listen. Look at her ears, twitching from left to right, forward, back. any sound, any noise that comes from the grass, she gets attracted and heads there. And that's the reason they have very long ears, to listen to what's around them. And because they're specially adapted for hunting in such long grasses, those ears help them well because they can listen through that grass, and if something is underground. Small snakes, lizards, grasshoppers, and mice will fall prey to this Tsavo. Tsavos have a territory of about 2 to 4 square kilometers. Tsavo are always solitary, and unless you see them in a pair, that's when you'll get to know that they have kittens. So most of the time you find that they'll be solitary. So to tell the number of Tsavo per square kilometer here, it will be a little bit difficult. But along this road here, during our night drive, I'll be able to see about eight Tsavo in different locations just alongside this area. So this Tsavo, we always see her around this area, so I can say that she's marked her territory here. So because of the long grass, we not particularly have an adequate number of how many Tsavo we have around here. Sometimes we can go even for about 2 months without seeing a Tsavo, and you might think that there are no Tsavos around, but there are actually so many Tsavo. But to tell you a number of Tsavo will be a little bit difficult, or maybe to get to an estimate, I'll be wrong to tell a big estimate. She's still at the same spot, probably because there's something around that area, probably a mouse. Let's see if she'll get something to eat while I take you over to another live location.
Well, good luck to that Tsavo. I hope it gets some breakfast. But I have a bull elephant, so big, it was very intimidating for me to cross the road, but he has moved further down. And he did something amazing that is rarely seen. I hope he finishes that twig quickly so he can repeat that again. He stood on his hind legs, believe me, and raised his trunk very high and pulled a little bit of a twig. And that's what he's consuming right now. At the moment, and this time of the year, this tree, the desert date, is producing some dates, and so they're very edible. They are not very sweet to us. They're sweet sour, but the elephants love them, and I think that's what he wanted. He picked up a small shrub. You see, he's consuming it. This Balanitis aegyptica has modified leaves that are like thorns, and they actually can be prickly to us, but to elephants, it's like eating a hot curry. That's what I seem to believe. He's enjoying that Balanitis aegyptica tree. Remember, they have very wide molars. Wideness is about almost 2.5 inches, and so a twig about 1 inch lying flat on top of the 2 molars can easily be crushed. And what kind of nutrients is there, I cannot tell you, but you can see it's taking one after the other. This is a fully grown bull, over 30 years. He seems to be in must. Must is a highlighted, a season that he gets into when his testosterone go very high, and he's looking for females to mate with. They are usually very nomadic at this stage, wandering long distances looking for females in estrus, and they can be very, very aggressive. You have to be very careful when you're close to them. They can attack without warning, and so I was very careful. Although it's safe now, but still I have to be very, very careful. Every now and then, they will stop, or he will stop and feed, browse, and then move on looking for females. I'm hoping he finishes that so he can do exactly what I just explained, because some trees are very delicious than others, and he might go for another shrub. You can see he's still eating part of that bush. Well, I'm going to leave you to enjoy that sight of him eating, but I'll stay here. Hopefully, we'll get to share that experience of him taking a tree down with you.
Oh, Isaac, I hope he doesn't take a tree down. Poor tree. Now, I need your help, everyone. This is a Wahlberg's nest in the Mulwati, the one that we've been visiting. You can't visit Mrs. Wigg's house and then not come to Mrs. Wahlberg's house. That's just rude. I thought we could have possibly been looking at the chick, but now that I'm looking at it, I think it's possibly Mrs. Wahlberg herself. The pale morph is the female in this monogamous pair. It had a very young face. Theo and I have been trying to get the best views, but now this is, a terrible view. The Wahlberg chicks are also very large and have that real sort of sharp beak, mean-looking eyes. But this one had a very young face, and now we don't have the same view anymore. So I'm wondering whether this is Mrs. Wahlberg after all. Show us your face. You've got to love the branches that are blocking her face, don't you? It just looks very fluffy and very small. But I guess it's Mrs. Wahlberg. Yeah, that's Mrs. Wahlberg. Kelly, I'm not sure, because the other day I'm convinced that when we drove by, she was feeding. Now, normally the male does all the hunting. The male's a dark morph, but will come to the nest, deliver food, and normally mama tears it up into very small chunks for the chick. And I'm convinced I saw her feeding, which makes me think the egg has hatched and there's actually a chick there. But to be perfectly honest, Theo can just give you a view of what we're looking at is really, really high up. We're not working with the best angles. Nothing like Mrs. Wigg's house. You see, that's our zoom capabilities. It's just very, very difficult for us to get a good view here. So I could be wrong, but I have been coming here every single day, and I'm sure I saw Mrs. Wigg feeding. So I think she's probably just doing maybe what Mrs. Wigg is doing and just sitting next to her chick. I'm not sure we'll even ever get a proper view of the chick due to the location of the nest, but this is the same nest that they use year after year. Wahlbergs are known to do that. And when they arrive in time for summer, the nest often requires a lot of maintenance. It's probably been damaged by weather, or maybe other birds sitting on it, or just general decay. So normally they spend a lot of time maintaining the nest. And then once it's ready, once it's sort of got that structural integrity, she will then lay an egg. Both parents in this monogamous pairing invest a lot into the offspring. So that's me done visiting my two birds. And now we're going to exit the Mulwati and see what else we can find.
welcome back. As you've joined us, you can see how the light is just hitting the sighting so beautifully. Look at that one cub trying to run down. I'm now noticing for the first time that they've got such full bellies. So I think also the reason they've been stuck in those mountainy areas is they've had a carcass there for the last few days and have possibly been sitting and feeding on it this entire time. You know, they don't have to rush off carcasses like cheetah do, so they can sit until it's finished or until it's rotten enough that even these lions decide it's too bitter for them to eat. And what's quite sweet is if we look at all their heads, those two cubs at the back especially, they're watching something down below. I don't know what it is. It could be something small like a lizard. You know, that's the lovely thing. We were talking earlier about that young giraffe and how they're so curious. You know, they've got a lot more energy. And you'll see the same with young lions. You know, a lot of things will trigger their curiosity. As you can see, that one at the back now, it's lost interest in whatever it was watching. It's now looking around for something else to catch its eye. And those two in the front are playing quite nicely together. And that's also really a great way to compare the sizes. Look at those two on the far right. If we zoom in on their heads, you actually see the size difference in those heads. The one in the front significantly smaller than the one behind. So it's a female in the front with the grass sort of standing right in front of her face, and a male next to her. And then it looks like another female. Yeah, definitely a female on the bank behind them. A male on the far left. So, Sinak, that's another really good question. In terms of the territory sizes, I'm just trying to think. You know, Phinda is about just over 28,000 hectares. We're going on 29,000 hectares now. And we've got 3 major prides of lions. And pretty much their territories are of a similar sort of size. I'd say Mountain Pride probably has one of the bigger territories. But I would say probably just shy of 10,000 hectares. You know, maybe 9,000, 8,000 hectares each. That's about the size of the territories that you'll find with these prides. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, conservation, you need a huge amount of land to be able to do photographic safaris. So you'll see, you know, all the reserves that we've got, the big 5, are massive. And it brings in huge costs with the, you know, the anti-poaching, fence maintenance, road maintenance, all of those sort of things. And it's because, you know, animals like this, they won't survive and they won't do well, or they won't sort of be able to have zero impact on the ecosystem and the balance of it without a sufficient amount of land. So you really do need a large property to have a pride of lion. You know, at least I would say probably about 8,000 hectares, because we can see, and Phinda, we've got a really nice predator-prey balance. It's actually wonderful to see our numbers every year. You know, every year you do an annual game count, and you'll see the populations of various animals, and it's very much stabilized within our ecosystem, which is good, which shows that we've got a balance going on. You know, the problem is if you get a increase in your predator numbers, then they'll overhunt, and you'll actually have a decrease in your, you know, herbivore count and, you know, plains game count. And that's going to really upset your ecosystem. So it's a huge balancing act when it comes to maintaining these kind of reserves. But that being said, now I've just gone on that whole spiel, it will depend on pride size and food availability. You know, if it's a smaller pride and there's a large abundance of food, they can get away with a much smaller territory. You can imagine, because there's so much food. And the reason they need a large territory, or the reason they'll move through their territory so often, is because as they hunt, if they hunt too long in one area, the animals become incredibly predator aware. They're used to the fact that there are lions all around. And you can imagine if animals are always on alert and get used to the smell and, pick up all those signs, then it's going to be really increasingly difficult for the animals to hunt. So that's why they'll hunt in an area and then they leave that section and then they go to another area and they hunt in there. And especially once their cover's been blown, I'm sure most of you have seen those animals alarm calling. That alerts all the animals around in the general vicinity. They can hear those alarm calls that there's predators in the area, and now suddenly they're all on alert and much more difficult to hunt. So the predators then have to move completely out of that area before they can try and hunt again. So it's to their benefit to have a larger territory. So I think we might give it a little bit more time here, just see what these lions get up to. I don't expect them to actually move today. Like I said, they've got full bellies. They've found a really nice comfy spot, and I think this might be them for the morning, but maybe we'll stick around for another 10 or 15 minutes, see if they do anything else that's interesting. Otherwise, we're going to leave and find out what else we can find this morning.
Lions on a full belly can spend the entire day resting. Now our giraffes are still on the move. You can see them feeding. This is the happiest time to feed because they prefer the early morning and the late afternoon to feed. Now just because of the rains, giraffes will be spread out because there is lots of foliage, lots of nutritious leaves to feed on. Because we find that they're mixed feeders. Sometimes they'll be browsing on leaves on those twigs, and sometimes they can also feed on the grass. There's an advantage of height because they get to eat the fresh leaves or the freshly sprouted leaves on those trees. They also require less food than many other herbivores because the foliage they eat has more concentrated nutrients, and they have an effective digestive system. That also comes in because of the height advantage, the neck. No other animal has or can reach the fresh leaves on trees other than elephants, but you find that because we have more grass here, so elephants will mostly prefer on eating the grass, but sometimes you'll find them in bushes and trees eating. But giraffes, with their longer height and also the neck, they have that advantage to get the foliage. You don't really see them drinking because at this time of the day you find that all those leaves have enough water, so sometimes they can stay for even a week without drinking. But during the dry seasons, they'll sometimes go and drink once, and that can last them for about 3 days. So you find that in the morning or the first hours or before mid-morning, they're very active in feeding. And then in the afternoon, you find them on shade of trees, just resting. Once in a while, they'll also be on the lookout to check for predators. And of course, because of the height advantage, they get to see a long distance for lions and other predators like hyenas. There's a lone elephant bull back in the distance there. It's a busy morning for these giraffes, so I might try to find something else. I'll be happy to come across lions because it seems like a good morning to see lions on the move or maybe active. As I take you over to another live location.
driving along, we came across some of these beautiful trees with these incredible pom-pom flowers. So this is called Vichelia exuvialis, or flaky bark thorn. Now, we've talked about this tree before, but we haven't seen the flowers yet. Well, I certainly haven't. And now I've gotten a chance to show you. They've got the most intricate little pom-pom flowers, and although this tree doesn't have a whole lot of medicinal or cultural uses, it's, for one, an incredible bee species of tree. So bees are very much attracted to it. Lots of insects will pollinate these, get the food that they need. But you can also see they've got these really, really sharp white thorns. And now what this is very useful for, well, traditionally some of these thorns might have been used in place of stitches. If you had a wound that was like a laceration, a cut, you could use these. You could push the sharp end of this, break it off, and then have it as a suture. But the other thing that it gets used for, if we can just show you the actual small tree here, is it's often used for brush packing. So you can see this tree over there. It's covered in these thick white thorns and also copious amounts of flowers. And what you do is they grow in disturbed areas. It's called a woody pioneer. So anywhere which has been like a road or damaged in some way, these trees take over. And what you do is you harvest them, pack them down onto the ground thickly, and those thorns will protect the ground from being overgrazed and allow the area to recover. So it's a really, really good tree to use in conservation because there's abundant amounts of them. They're not a protected species. They grow abundantly, and you can just pack them down, protect an area, and have it rehabilitate. It's a really, really good tree to have on your reserve.
Well, well, something you don't always see, and this is the result of the rain we have received from yesterday around 3:30 in the afternoon and all night. I cannot go across. I'll have to get back and find another route. All these waters are headed towards the beautiful Mara River, and then they will end up in Lake Victoria, somewhere about 250 kilometers from here. And then from Lake Victoria, they'll go to the Nile and continue on almost, I think, to the Mediterranean Sea. So these waters are the source of the Nile. I can say that because they contribute, to the Mara River, which drains to Lake Victoria and onwards to the Nile. This is the result of the amount of rain we received yesterday. Remember, we are experiencing our short rains, which come in from the months of late September, November, and December. We call it the short rainy season. We have two seasons in Kenya, hot, or we call it dry, and wet. And we are experiencing our wet season. So this is the amount of water that has come in from this is Sabaringo River. It's in between Kichwa Airstrip and Olololo Gate, and comes in from top a place called Nyakweri. And Ruth, you say, many floods? Yes, definitely, there is a lot. This is one of many. If time allows, we'll be sharing these, kind of experiences with you. And they can be very, very tricky and deceiving. You think you can cross, but I tell you, my friend, the moment you're in, you're stepped down, it's very easy to disappear. So the only solution for me to do is, and very wise, is to get back and find something else, because this can be very, very dangerous. Yes, it's a lot of water. It might seem like it's just a little bit, but also, I don't know if the bridge is broken. Seven Pain, you say this rain unusual for this season? No, it's not. Unlike the confused weather that we're having, that I call it the abnormal normal, because we have to get used to it, we have gotten back to the original system. If it's a rainy season, we used to get short rains end of September, November and December, and it is much welcome. This was in my younger days, but nowadays things have changed. You can get it anytime, but raining this time for most Kenyans, or most senior Kenyans, they will tell you that it is normal to rain this time of the year here. So it is not unusual. That is a lot of water. I don't know what time it started, but you can see it is actually receding from that dry little log there. That it was brought by water. It must have been there, but it's going down slowly. But you don't want to be sucked by that swell there. It can be very dangerous. The wise idea for me to do is to move on, but I'll leave you for that water to entertain you for a few seconds while we take you to another location.
So welcome back to the other side of the Mara, where we have some beautiful birds just flown over. That's called the black-bellied bustard. Very beautiful bird. So this is one of the bustards that we have around here. We have the Kori bustard, we have the white-bellied bustard, the black-bellied bustard. I can hear out in the distance the rufous-napped lark whistling. Sometimes you might find this bird solitary or in pairs. He's picking some insects there. It's a beautiful morning to come next to the road to feed, because you find that when the vehicles pass by, there's always so many insects disturbed, and that is what they're getting an advantage of. They'll take on small snakes, they'll take on rodents, and sometimes they have a very nice melodious song in the evenings, which I always like. Unfortunately, I cannot make that call, but I always like it so much.
Welcome back. So as you can see, we've still got some fairly sleepy lions, and those little cubs have decided that they're a bit bored by lying on top of this rocky outcrop, and they've gone off to a spot where we can't see them. So they've gone off down the back, and we're busy looking at these lionesses right now. We're just paying attention to a car passing behind us. Now, if we have a look, the one on the left, I don't know if you noticed when they picked up their faces, the difference in head size. So you can see the one on the left has got quite a bit of a larger head. And also, if you look at the condition of her ear, look at the left, her right ear, sorry. Our left, her right. And you can see there's a few tear marks in there. So all of those things indicate she's a bit of an older lioness. Oh, there's one come running out around the side. Look at that. It just came down. If we move off to the right, it's actually hiding behind this sort of rock down there. And it's now turning around to just see where its siblings have gone. I think they're busy playing in that little gap. Possibly chasing each other around. Now, it's really important for cub development to have these playful interactions, because it's how they learn to stalk and hunt and get used to, the agility of their own body. So you often see when they play, it'll be very much like how they would take down an animal when they hunt. They go for the neck and they bite their siblings very softly on the neck. And they also try and pounce on their back and swat with their paws. So all things you'll see adult lions needing to do later on in life. It does appear that these animals are all incredibly sleepy this morning. Oh my word, it looks like a crowned eagle above us. I don't know if we can actually get the camera up that high. And it looked like there was a snake actually dangling from its claws. I just saw the barring under the wings, and then I saw something long and thin in its claws. I haven't ever seen them, go for snakes. They more go for mammals, or at least they're known for sort of hunting monkeys and small mammals and things. It's more the snake eagles that will specialize in snakes, but I'm sure if they had an opportunity to grab one, they certainly would do so. It's now flown off. That was quite a special sighting. Always great to see a crowned eagle. It's such a majestic bird. Massive, massive eagle. But if we look back at these lions, they are really sleepy. You can see the one on the right's completely passed out. The one on the left's sort of slowly nodding off as well. And I think especially on this nice cloudy day, we've got a really cool temperature. They've got full bellies. I don't see them doing anything else this afternoon, except maybe when it gets a bit hotter, finding another patch of shade and lying down there. So I think this is where we're going to leave them for this morning. We're going to go and see if we can maybe find something else. I'm looking for some buffalo and some rhino and any of the smaller things that catches our interest.
Well, much like your lions are not going anywhere, our lovely flowers here are not going anywhere either. How gorgeous are these? One of my favorite plants to see out here in the bush. It's a sickle bush, or Dicrostachys cinerea. That's the Latin name, and here you can see the beautiful flowers that emerge at this time of year. Now, you would have heard that they're sometimes called the Chinese lantern tree. And that makes sense because it kind of looks like a Chinese lantern, right? You can see the different stages of the flowers, and they kind of droop down and look like hanging little lanterns all, excuse my game drive radio there, all over the tree, just in time for Christmas. It looks like a Christmas tree, and I love that. So here you can see the flower is two-toned. There's the yellow bit at the bottom and then the pink bit at the top. And that pink bit at the top is just sterile. It's just ornamental. But that yellow bit at the bottom, that's where the pollen is. And it's at the bottom there that after these flowers have produced fruits, you get these pods, because that's what pods are. They're the fruits. And this bunch of pods start to curl and look sickle-like. That's why it's called a sickle bush. Apparently it can be used to ward off evil spirits. especially if you put it above your door and around your home, or particularly locally, that's a belief. But the most interesting thing about this plant is that it actually makes a great bonsai. I myself haven't tried it out. Obviously, it's a very long process, but can you imagine how stunning this must be to have little tiny bonsai flowers all over? If you didn't know, you can bonsai most trees. Some are better at being bonsaied than others. You just restrict the growth and nutrients, etc., so that you are able to reduce the size of the plant. So you can even take a big tree like this or a marula and you can bonsai it. So this is not a bad idea, I think. Perhaps I should try it and then get back to you all in 50 years when my bonsai looks respectable. The bush is really exploding with some gorgeous flowers and greenery. Seeing all those things that remind me of the great summers that we've had here. See how that top bit is starting off white, and then as it matures, it gets nice and pink. Elizabeth, you say these are your favorite colors. Well, then you must get yourself a sickle bush. Definitely. It's a very, very pretty, soft kind of baby pink. Lovely, vibrant yellow, too. So pretty. Well, we're going to head off now. So we've checked that den on Gallagher's shortcut. And unfortunately, nobody is home. So we're going to set off and go off. Sorry, I just had to help a car there not getting stuck into our sickle bush. But we're going to go off towards the south and maybe check out one of the dams. And then we'll let you know if we find anything interesting there.
Welcome back to the Mara, where our Rufus Niplak is entertaining us with a very nice melodious song this morning. You can see the misty background there. Just listen to that melody. She's calling. These songs are always changed after about 20 repetition. Just listen to that carefully, and then all of a sudden the song changes. Very, very nice. It's a very unique bird because during courtship, the male always feeds the female. Brand, yes, that's a very lovely melody. It's a melody that will soothe this morning, this misty morning. What a misty morning. Oh. beginning of the rains, the males always spend time calling. Marianne, is this a baby chick? No, this is a fully grown. So this bird belongs to a family called the larks. It's called the rufous nipped lark. They're very small, tiny birds like that. Sometimes can be mistaken to be chicks. I've had some people send me photos of larks asking me what chick is that, but it's not a chick. This is a fully grown. This is a male calling, and this is a behavior that they usually do, especially during the rains. They spend most of the time calling and singing. This bird can make you spend the entire day just listening to his call. I'm going to take you over to another live location.
Well, I have the Maasai ostrich here, and look at how wet he looks. His feathers are so wet, they've been so washed clean, they're almost empty. He's almost, you can see everything. This is one of the reasons why the ostrich cannot fly. The wings are not big enough, not developed, and also the feathers are not adapted to catching wind. But he's happy, he's enjoying his morning meal, he's eating grass. Remember, this bird is related to the rheas, to the kiwis, to the emus of Australia. A bird at full size can be almost 2 meters, 2.5, and has got the biggest eye of almost 5 centimeters. I wonder if that head can hold 2 eyes, 5 centimeters, and the brain must be very, very small brain. He's always with a flock of females that are not very far, but they are walking towards him slowly. There they are. They're usually gray in color, females. They can go in flocks of up to 40, but here we get flocks of up to 9 only, and sometimes when you're very, very lucky, maybe 12, but very, very rare. Looks like they have no chicks, so they're just by themselves. This is a bird with very few predators. Only cheetah, leopard, and lion can kill them. Sometimes hyenas. Young ones are eaten mostly by jackals, which can outmaneuver a mother and take a young one. But basically, they can run really, really fast, almost 40 kilometers an hour. And they can turn at very sharp angles, dodging and darting, which they can get away from most predators. Gives them a very good advantage. A bird with only 2 toes, very unusual. And for defense, it can actually kick with one of the long toes, which has got a claw that is known and has been said it can disembowel a human quite easily. Surprisingly, people do ride them in certain countries. Must be very interesting. I've never tried that. I don't know where you hold on to, because if you hold on to the neck, you might kill it. Yes, this is the Maasai ostrich. It looks like it's swallowing something. It's going down the neck. Look at that. His pinky... Finak, how intelligent is an ostrich? Talking about intelligence, I can confess that I don't have much knowledge on how intelligent they are, but they are able to judge situations. I don't think they can really calculate, but they can judge, that, depending on where they're heading. If they see something, they can judge that that is a lion, that is a jackal, and they can get away from it. But I don't know if they are intelligent, if that's the right word to use on them, but they are smart just to be able to survive in these, very, very, very dangerous plains. Not everybody can survive here, so they do well, and I would give them, big five for that. Look at that beautiful sight we have here. He's just coming off his breeding plumage. Usually it gets very pink, almost red. Usually that is the color of love to excite the females, and we normally see them, just down the bathroom. That is the male part you just seen. Yeah, definitely he is a male. They just came off breeding season. Normally this is the month that they incubate their eggs. Remember, they sit on one nest. Females will lay eggs in one nest, and they will take turns between male and females to sit on the eggs. Takes about 60 days. High beyond, you ask, what does an ostrich sound like? Very interesting, because the first time I heard it sounded like a lion, and it's a boo. It goes like That's how it sounds. You can actually tell that he reacted to that. I hope he doesn't think I'm a female. Yes, definitely that's how it goes. If you've never heard it and you have an expert close to you, you will say lion, he will say ostrich, and you'll start a fight or you'll start arguing. But from a distance, you might think it's a lion. Well, let me take you to another live location as I move on to find some more cats. Well, sounds like I'm still on air. Look at the beautiful sight we have. It's rare to have mist over here, but that's towards the Olololo Syria escarpment, so it's not visible today. Not a very good day to be flying in that direction if you don't know how high the escarpment is. But it's just a beautiful sight. Can you hear the cisticola and the rufous snaplock calling close to me? Just listen. Okay, I'll leave you to listen to the rattling cisticola and the rufous snaplock as I move on.
We have found Miss Tandy in Torchwood. She appears to be alone and very mobile. We had her earlier and she darted off after something. She's hungry. We couldn't unfortunately see what it was, but she's very, very hungry. So we're following her through the thicket here in Torchwood. I think I'm just going to move forward a little bit, Theo. Tandy's very petite, she's very short, so in the long grass, she can disappear. And we all know that Tandy is very good at disappearing. We call it the Tandy slip. I think if I go forward here, we'll get a nice view of her. Or maybe not a nice view, but we'll get a view. It's just really important that you stay out of her way in scenarios like this. It's better to follow, although the bum shots are not always ideal when they're hunting. You can't block their view. And she's hungry. Now, Mapinpan is what they call the small one here, which means a cub. And there's no sign of him so far, but that doesn't mean they're not going to meet up. Hey, old girl. Sir 50, you hit the nail on the head there. The busy leopard staying busy as always. Oh yes. Tandy likes to make it rather difficult for us. And Klalamba, she inherited that from her mother for sure. Now let's just see if I can get round and get another view, because I don't know how long we'll be able to keep up with this cat for. Possibly not. There's another vehicle here. I'm just going to go around and see if we can catch her passing vehicle. Theo, can you work through that gap? There's lots of juvenile silver cluster leaves here. I wish technology had advanced enough for me to send you the smell coming from the silver cluster leaves here. I love it, but it does smell like very old Stilton cheese mixed in with extremely dirty socks from a rugby player. Michelle's probably watching, so he said to me the other night, I love when the silver cluster leaves smell like this. It means we don't have to shower as often. It's a very bad smell, but there's also something very nice about it. Now, it would be ideal for Tandy to catch something now, because I think within the next hour or so, it's going to get really, really hot. And although leopards can hunt during the day, and they do hunt during the day, it's of course going to take a lot more effort to catch something in the extreme heat than it would be otherwise. Okay, we've lost visual for now, and it's going to take a little bit of maneuvering here, I'm afraid. So hopefully, we can keep up with our spotted queen.
We have come to this savanna where the ovinos normally roam, but we can't see them. We just come across this big bull. I can see the reed frogs croaking. Very, very nice. This is a bull that I've always followed, and I've been able to identify him because of his rugged ears. I've seen a population of elephants increasing in this Mara Triangle because there's plenty of food, that means, and then there's lots of water. So, and also there's no disturbance. Normally when you find the great migration around here, you find that elephant will be pushed off to certain regions, certain areas. And because they roam a big home range, they always come back to their previous feeding grounds. And because of the distribution of grass, distribution of trees and foliage, they can move from one area to another. Bulls will always walk longer home ranges in search of females and also good grazing grounds. He's following a trail where I can see a small herd of elephants. So sometimes we just walk with them and then carry on with the bachelor herd. Normally when I see such big bulls, I know that there are other small bulls around because they only follow these big bulls. Sinak, thank you for your question. That is a sound from the common reed frog. That is a communication that always males will perform to attract females for potential mating. And just after the rains, you will always hear that very, very beautiful sound. It's a melodious morning where we had the rufous-nipped lark, now the frogs. And I'm sure they're singing to this elephant who is enjoying that sound and grazing softly. The age of these elephants increase their reproductive success, and you find that from about 25 years, that is when they reach the mask cycle, and they're at their primes when they're about 40 years of age. So you find that most females, especially the matriarchs, prefer to mate with such big bulls. So the juveniles graduating from their herds will always join such big bulls. And this helps them to behave towards older bulls like this and also females for reproduction. You find that he teaches them the mating etiquettes, where to go in search for females and how to go about it. As I keep on watching this bull, let me take you over to another live location.
As you can see, we have come across the most beautiful sighting. It's one of those moments which sort of takes your breath away. We've left those lions. They look like they're going to be sleeping from here until probably this afternoon sometime. And we came across this stunning scene. Now, what struck me first was this beautiful fever tree that's sort of standing prominently in the middle. And then, of course, you can see the array of animals. You can see the wildebeest on the left, busy drinking from that tiny little patch of mud. And in fact, the one at the back is sort of half submerged. You can see it's gone all the way down into its front legs, really covered in mud. And you can see them leaning. The one on the far left is leaning as far in as it possibly can. It's down on its haunches and it's trying to get right in the middle of the puddle, because that is going to be the least sort of murky or muddy water that it can get. And even that other one on the right is sort of walking as slow as it can. It's not trying to disturb the mud at all because they want to try and drink whatever clean water is left. I see a water coming into the scene now. So you can see it's got really prominent warts on just below the eye, and a second set just above the tusks. So this is actually a male, but quite interestingly, it's got tiny little tusks. But it does seem to be fully grown size, so I think it's just got very small tusks genetically. You know, the males are the only ones that have the 2 sets of warts, and they've got more prominent warts under the eye. If it only had 1 set, it would be a female. But yeah, now we can definitely see 100% a male, but just very small tusks for a warthog. And then, of course, there are the 2 rhino on the right-hand side, which are feeding so beautifully alongside each other. And I always find scenes like this amazing, you know, when you don't only get one animal, but you get a collection of them cohabiting an area, interacting with each other. Really quite stunning. You can hear the black-crowned shagra calling in the background. I can hear everyone's appreciating the sighting, and it is a beautiful one to stop and look at. There's even more wildebeest off to the right that might come into the area soon. It's quite a massive group of wildebeest as well, now that we're looking at it. Now if you have a look, you can see all these wildebeest, the horns are about the same width as the ears. You've got some young ones as well. You can see some that are just smaller in size, smaller horns. There's one to the left of this fever tree that's got a very light head. Horns aren't even, you know, they're still going up. So you can see that's a calf from last year's breeding season. In fact, most of these females will be ready to give birth in about a month's time. And that's certainly something that we're going to be looking forward to and on the lookout for. Actually looking at their bellies, and you can see how heavily pregnant some of them are. Very, very round bellies. So this is a herd of females. There should normally be one male within the group, and he will be the territorial male of this area. And I imagine the male who's got this area is going to be in prime condition, because you can imagine it's got a lot of really green grass around here. There's water sources. He's going to defend this territory against a lot of contesters. Because it is such an attractive territory, it's going to attract females and big herds like this in fairly regularly, which means he's going to be able to mate and pass on his genes. Little vixen, a little bit of everything indeed. You know, I actually counted 4 different species of animals when we first arrived. There was an impala, it's gone off to the left now, but there was an impala ram, there's that warthog that we saw, and wildebeest and rhino. Also here a beautiful variety of birds calling in the background. And here a rufous nape lark, hi ho, hi ho. You can hear European bee eaters also in the distance, probably flying off overhead somewhere. I see those rhinos have gone off to the background. Now, note the behavior. As soon as the rhinos started walking to the mud wallow, did you notice how the wildebeest went off? Now, there is a sort of a hierarchy amongst animals around water sources. So rhinos being bigger would be high up on the hierarchy, and that's why all those wildebeest and the warthog have also left that little mud wallow. And I'm actually wondering if these rhinos are going to take advantage of this mud wallow and do a bit of wallowing themselves. Oh, look. Yes, just behind the tree, I can see the ones lay down. A little bit of mud sort of pushing around. Oh, it's rolling over. I'm just thinking to get a better view if I should reverse a little bit. Oh, you can see it's kicked up its leg. I think let's reverse a little bit because we're going to get a stunning view just a little bit back. And it's always wonderful to watch these rhinos mud wallowing. So just give me a moment. And I'm going to reverse for you. There we go. See both of them really enjoying that mud. The one on the far left has already rolled over. You can see that there's one sort of patch down the back, down his back, where he hasn't quite reached yet. But he's done a full roll onto the one side, roll into the other. We saw that one leg get kicked up. And this is certainly very typical rhino behavior. You know, these two males, it's interesting because it's not that hot, but you know, they don't only mud wallow to cool themselves down. There's also a whole element where it's to protect themselves from parasites. So that mud is going to cake over their skin, and as it cakes over and as it dries, they're going to rub it off on a prominent tree or branch or something, and that friction with the sand particles, the mud particles, and their skin will actually break off any sort of parasites, just like when we exfoliate. Now, I think we might actually stay here for a little bit and see what these rhinos get up to. But we're going to send you to another live location in the meantime.
Miss Tandy has finally sort of gone up a termite mound, a shudulu. She's scanning the horizon. We've positioned ourselves very, very far away. We're at the end of our sort of zoom capacity here. It's a little bit of an open clearing here in Torchwood. I'm just allowing her to scan. She's hungry for sure. Her belly's empty. She's scanning, she's looking, she's listening. Termite mounds are perfect. They blend in very, very well. Although we can see her, there's lots of long grass, so the prey species wouldn't necessarily pick her out. I feel another little impala lamb may lose its life today. I can't see what it is she's looking at. I can only begin to imagine the visual capacity of Tandy. Her eyesight is so sharp. That vision accurately gauges depth and distance. And although leopards are nowhere near as fast as cheetah, they're still fast. She's starting to pant. It's getting hot. And hopefully if she catches something, that's what we want. So she's no longer hungry, and maybe Cub will come to join. He's getting much older now, approaching the 9-month mark. And when he reaches a year, the sort of main stakeholders in the area will name him. They normally wait for a year for leopards, because it becomes very, very difficult when, well, let's just say if that leopard doesn't make it and it's been given a name, it just makes the process a little bit harder. So they normally wait for a year, and then there's a group effort in naming the animal. James, you're saying a huntress on the hunt. Absolutely. Tandy in her younger days used to have many impala hanging in different trees, just like her daughter. Tlalamba not so long ago had a different kill hanging in different trees in the Mulwati. And you wonder where she gets it from. It's definitely not her father. I have so much respect and I admire Tandy so much. 14 years old, 7 litters, suffered loss, protected your offspring, battled with other females, avoided males, tried to confuse paternity by mating with many different males. Survival at its best. She's a very, very impressive female. And she looks old, but she's definitely not losing condition. But she does look slightly older. She's an older leopardess. That tail's twitching. I can't see her face, but I can see the tail. There we go. She's focusing on something. I see how camouflaged she is, just blending into the background there. Sorry, that's my radio. Now she's walking behind the car, I'm afraid, so it's going to involve a little bit of repositioning here. So we're going to try and follow her, and hopefully she catches her breakfast.
Elephants, and more of them. Beautiful setting, as you can see, still very misty towards the Lolo escarpment, and gives it a very beautiful and different backdrop to this frame that I have here. Lots of elephants in this big herd. We've had a baby boom. I have to keep saying it, and it is just beautiful. They've come right close to the road, and there is a lot of young ones, and you know, Bungei will share that with you, not very far away from us. Those two there, you would think they're twins, but the one to the right is slightly older. Quite young. Look at that. How beautiful is that? Yeah. It's just beautiful to see those two together. Well, when you're born as an elephant and you have a cousin your age, it is usually lots of fun, and it's beautiful because you have somebody to play with. And in this case, in this herd, the little ones are very lucky. That is, I'd say a male to the right, and the one to the left could be female. The forehead is very angular, but I'll see that. They are crossing from the plains, heading towards the bushes. It is very slippery. It's still very wet everywhere. Always nice to see them somewhere flat without any grass, so you can see their whole bodies. They're coming towards me. And now they've headed out. I think she was choosing the right spot to go across. Remember, the elephants here in the Mara haven't been, disturbed by the sound of the gun for almost 70 years. So they're very, very tolerant to vehicles as long as you approach them in the right way. If you come driving really fast, they will actually react, and the reaction can be very negative. So now, thank you for your beautiful comment. You love watching elephants. Definitely, they are one of those animals that you can watch every day and not get tired. And one thing about them is they're always active. They're always doing something. And that's why you can always watch them anytime if you don't get tired of them. Look at how many young ones we have here. This is what I would say a typical breeding herd, which usually it's just a mixture of females who are closely related or cousins, and their offsprings from previous year and maybe 5 years before. So this is just beautiful to see a breeding herd like this with lots and lots of young ones. I don't see any that's pregnant over here or carrying a young one. So most of them have given birth, and that's why we have these many small ones. Being, close to cousins and sisters as a matriarch provides a lot of security to young ones like this. So in case of any danger, they can always, surround them, giving them confidence and surety, security, so that they can actually grow knowing that they are protected. It's just a beautiful sight. Elephants are making a very good comeback in the recent years. Due to serious protection they've been given, the numbers are increasing, though very slowly, because although they live very long, almost 60, 70 years, it takes about 5 years for a female to give birth. Mortality rate is not very high. It's very low in elephants because they're very protective. So they are doing a good comeback. Remember, they have very bad eyesight. So from the distance I am right now, they might not see me, but they can smell me or hear me if the wind is blowing their way. And they're constantly on the move, constantly eating. They have a very poor digestive system, so they have to keep feeding and feeding and feeding. They do say in Africa we have what is called the forest elephant, found in the forests of Congo and Togo, those areas. But science is still doing a lot of research. I don't believe, it's a different one. The only different elephant we have is the Indian elephant, which has got a smaller ears. Also, some of them don't grow tusks. Some of the differences are those. Aaron, what's elephant's best defense? Well, Aaron, just the size is enough to intimidate anybody, including a man with a gun. But if they need to, get aggressive, the tusks are their best defense. Those tusks can go through you like a skewer goes through stick. That's how you can imagine. They're thick but very sharp, but imagine 6 tons of muscle and power pushing it. They just go through anything. Metal, I've seen them go through a body of a car, like a pin goes through paper. I've seen them debark a big tree, just like how you'd peel, an orange, easy. So they're very, very, they have very many defenses. But size is the first one that will intimidate anybody. Then if they need to use anything, they'll use the tusks as their main defense. Yes. The little guy, I don't know what's happening to him. He doesn't like maybe the dew in the grass. He's lifting his legs. Yeah, I think Yeah. Maybe he's gotten too wet. He's trying to tell the grass, why are you so wet everywhere? Can I find a dry spot? Or maybe there's something on the ground he stepped on. Oh, that's that bush. Yes, exactly. Well, they do have some muscles on the trunk, but not fully, because you saw him lift that little shrub of, bush. Okay, anyway, I'm going to leave you with that little one playing as we take you to the next location.
So as you can see, not too much has changed with the scene, except that the wildebeest have gotten up their nerve and have come back to this little mud wallow. I think they've read the rhino's behavior correctly, in that the rhinos aren't going anywhere anytime soon. They've found an incredibly comfortable patch of mud, and they are lying down, cooling themselves off right now. You can imagine it's just like us sitting, having a little spa day, a really nice, comfortable patch of mud. And so the wildebeest have approached cautiously, but the rhino don't seem too bothered that they're there. You can see they're just standing on the outskirts of that one mud wallow. So they don't seem to be bothering each other at all. What's quite funny to see is if you have a look at all the tails and the ears flicking of the rhinos in the background, you can imagine that there's a lot of flies that are going around, attracted by the animals and the mud. There must be a huge collection of them there. So I think that's the only thing that's making the scene for them a little bit uncomfortable. There's perhaps a lot of flies annoying them and ruining this otherwise completely serene moment. It's interesting when you watch animals and they're not feeding, they're not doing anything, they're just relaxing. Where they've gone wild, the wildebeest are ungulates, which is a family that is a two-hoofed animal. So that's the sort of general, rather large grouping of them. And I'm just trying to remember how we actually go down from that. And I've actually just hit a blank moment, because I don't think they're not bovids like the buffalo that we're talking about. I'm not entirely sure, actually. I'll have to try and find out for you. So from the ungulates, then there are ruminants as well. So you go down in classifications like that. But I'm trying to remember the actual family name. And I'll have to find that out for you. Just forgotten what the final distinction of them are. But with all animals, we sort of start off broad and we say, okay, this is the general grouping. And generally it comes down to sort of the amount of toes. So like I said, the ungulates, and then we break it down further into the digestive system. And wildebeest being ruminants are then ruminants. And from there, you'll get the family classification, which I've forgotten the name of at the moment. But I'll find that out to you, and I'll let you know in our next segment. It's lovely now. Look at the rhino dominating the scene here. The family name is Bovidae. Thanks very much for whoever provided that answer. So it was actually, I talked myself in a bit of a circle there. Apologies, everyone. So it is the Bovidae family. Good question, though. Now, if we're watching on the left, you can see that one rhino just busy gone up to this prominent log right there. And that is one of the rubbing posts. Now you can see he's completely covered himself in mud. And he's going to start scraping that off. Now watch this. You can see he's actually starting, interestingly, with his front feet, scraping a bit of that mud off. And look how he's leaning down. He's actually getting all the insides of his legs, all that mud scraping off there. Lovely to see. It's actually quite a fine art to it now that we're watching. And they're starting on the smaller joints. And I can imagine it's because this log is actually quite low to the ground. You know, it's not an easy one for them to rub off on the sides of their bodies. So they're using it for more the finer parts. Just like the front feet, and the nose, the folds under their skin. So this is the part of the exfoliation we were talking about earlier, you know, rubbing off all that mud, using the sand particles to sort of exfoliate their skin and get rid of any parasites. You can imagine any ticks that are clinging onto these rhinos. There's specialized ticks called rhino ticks that actually only sort of parasitize on rhinos. And they will be getting a few of those off with this whole rubbing motion. Almost seems to be using the other rhino now as a rubbing post. Look at that. I'm not sure if I've ever seen this before. I'm using each other as a rhino, as a rubbing post. But what's also interesting is you can see how the mud goes even over the eye. And I can't imagine that that's very comfortable. You know, it's completely caked itself out in mud. Obviously, the eyelid's protecting it. But as you know, if you get something on your face, even your eyelid doesn't protect you so much. So I wonder if it's got a bit of sand in its eye at the moment. One of those scenes that you actually don't need to comment on. I think let's just sit and watch for a little while. I think this is what these rhino are going to sort of carry on doing for a little while. They'll get rid of all this mud and then they're going to carry on feeding. So I think we're going to leave them for now. But what a beautiful scene to dominate this morning.
From the rhinos to elephants, now here we have about 4 separate families, which they all amount to about, I would say, 110 individuals. I can see in amongst them there's very large bulls who've come to ascertain if some of these females might be in estrus. It's a very enjoyable morning here where they all gathered to feed, and they look like they've all come from the escarpment. We're not far from the border, which I think it will be about 25 minutes to the border, but these have not all come from the border. I can see a lot of rumble. As Big James is panning, I just want you to see how many elephants there are around here. You can see how they split up into small groups. And you can see the very large bulls just isolating themselves. Lots of calves this year. There's one big bull there.
Here we have a hole. In fact, two holes. It's the hole of a termite mound or a vent coming out from the ground. And a grass funnel web spider has laid down its web across this little vent. That is the entrance. And starting in and out, so maybe we'll be lucky and see it. But the reason that really caught my attention is that a false netwing beetle had been caught underneath, kind of in the burrow, and couldn't get out because the web was hitting it. Now there's something also interesting, is there's a daddy longleg spider that has, I think, is still parting from last night. And no come down just yet for this daddy long-legged spider. Now, if you're wondering why it's raving like that to some brilliant techno music, obviously the techno music supplied to by Gert, it's actually a defense mechanism. So maybe something has bothered it, and then it's decided to spin around very, very crazily. How do I know this? Because I have, in my life, disturbed many a daddy long-legs spider. That's because you see them often in your home. So when you disturb them or their web, they have a really, really kind of messy web that would be constructed underneath the grass funnel web. There we go. There's the grass funnel web spider out. What's this disturbance? Your neighbor has come back from the rave absolutely bonkers. All 8 eyes probably staring in its direction. And the daddy longlegs has some spiderlings around, so perhaps they're irritating it. It's kind of really special to see 2 different types of spiders kind of living together in a complex situation as opposed to living in the same house. Oh, out it comes. Now the web of the spider is not sticky. Of the grass funnel web spider, so it's a very fast-moving spider because things are not getting stuck in its web. Things are rather getting stuck underneath its web. Like I said to you, that beetle that was stuck underneath. And so it's going to rush forward, grab it, and liquefy it and drink it very quickly. It doesn't have the luxury of sticky web where it can take its time to get to its prey. I think the only reason that it's not, or it's allowing the daddy longlegs to live in its abode or nearby and not eating it is because the daddy longlegs is such a tiny, tiny spider. In fact, the juicy bits are very, very small. So maybe it's just not worth it. But I think it might have its sights on something. Nope. Now back into the retreat. It's a really large sheet web that it's created here. It's a type of web we'd call this. It's flat. Marianne, you say that the spider's web is a construction art in itself. It really is. Nature is full of glorious art with the most insane materials, and one of those materials in nature that is just, for me, the top, absolutely almost off the scale, is spider silk. They can make different varieties of them for different purposes. And best of all, we can't recreate it. Look at that when the breeze comes through, how there's this gentle wobble. Almost looks like a trampoline. I'd say this is probably about 20 centimeters across, which is wide. Really nice. So we're getting to see, and I'm getting to see all of my favorite small creatures. I just need to complete it with a chameleon, and I think I'm missing some elephants. So we're going to make our way north to Buffelshoek Dam. See if we'll get lucky there.
So we heard that there was an elephant herd heading towards Leopard Dam. It took us a while to get here, but we've eventually found them. They've finished drinking, and they're having a good rest in the shade of these tall marula trees. So you can see that elephant standing closest to us. That's probably a mother standing over her youngsters that are lying down in the shade. So unusual to see elephants lying down like this. You almost only ever see it when there's lots of other elephants around, and on nice hot days when they are trying to cool down in the shade. So look at that, that's so nice. Looks like one of them might try and stand up soon. Or perhaps another one is going to join them. Look, this one's going to lie down as well. See how it's going down with one knee? It's trying to figure it out. It's not an easy thing for an elephant to do, to lie down. It takes a lot of energy and practice. Oh no, he's bottled it. He's on film, and he's not keen to try it when we're all watching. I saw him bend his knee there. I thought he was going to lie down. But they'll only ever do this when their mothers are looking over them. And there's at least 2, maybe even 3 youngsters lying down there. It's so nice. They suckled for a bit, and they lay down to rest. As the sun moves through the sky, the shade is going to recede. And you'll probably see these elephants get up and move closer to the shade, closer to the tree trunk, in order to stay hidden. It's going to be a very warm day. It's going to be exceedingly warm. And so the elephants are making the most of this breeze which is passing through at the moment. You can see that one female's flapping her ears quite frequently. That's a sure sign that she's quite warm and she's trying to cool down. She's also very wide. I don't know if you can notice that on her belly there, the side of her belly, there's a big sort of protrusion. So I think this female is heavily pregnant. That would be my assumption. Because she's got other youngsters underneath her. But it's probably not going to be too long before she gives birth again. The elephants have a very long gestation, almost 2 years. So, still a while to go, I assume. And you can see her trunk is fully relaxed. It's lying flat down on the ground. This is another sign that an elephant is really snoozing or dozing. I don't know how much of a of an automatic response the ears flapping is. It might be similar to us blinking, for example. But you can see now the ears are not flapping as much, so it might be that she's having just a short snooze. We see it often with elephants. They'll go and stand in the shade. They usually place their legs very wide so that they're nicely braced, and they'll literally relax all their muscles and their head will droop down and they'll be snoozing. Leopard lady, I agree. There's a lot more elephants here than what we can see. We only just see the one family, but there is at least, I'd say, the same amount of elephants spread around in the drainage line to our left. We can't see them, but it is a bit of a convention. Although we can't hear anything, there's almost certainly a lot of communication happening with these elephants. I mean, they wouldn't do this unless they were comfortable, so I'm sure they are passing messages back and forth to talking about that the coast is cleared, it's safe, there's no predators, there's no bulls around that are going to cause trouble. So it's really nice. Actually, just watching them relax like this makes me want to also just have a cuddle party with these elephants. Look at that very small one over there. Flat on the ground. You won't really see massive elephants lying down on flat ground like this. Not often, sometimes maybe, but not often. Because it's just very difficult for them to get up. Their tusks and their head and their trunk and everything is just so massive. So lying down is tricky. You'll often see them lying against a termite mound or a bank of a river, the soft sand, where it's a little bit easier for them to lever themselves up again. It's so nice to see. And some of these marula trees, like the one that they are standing under right now, are starting to produce fruits. I don't know if this one is producing any fruits right now. I can't see any from where we are. We're about 30 meters away or so. But very shortly they'll start producing copious amounts of fruits. And once they do, the elephants will use them not only for the shade, but also to eat the fruits that they drop. And you'll often see elephants pushing against them to create more fruits, or to cause more fruits to drop down. This tree is quite safe for the moment. I can hear some cracking branches over to our left, so some elephants are still feeding. And if they've been at the water earlier, they'll be, relatively cool, maybe taking advantage of this time before it gets too hot to get some more extra food. So you can see over to the left there how thick and green this environment is. There's a lot of lovely food around, so the elephants can take more time to rest. They don't have to be rushing around. There's an elephant that you can see just over there. What a lovely, relaxing experience.
Tandy's been stalking these impala for quite some time now. She knows they're there. They're behind us. We can't give you a view, but it's quite a large herd. She's been keeping her body low to the ground, her shoulder blades up, hiding in the vegetation. Really, really quite remarkable. I think she's just going to bide her time. She's hungry and she knows she's got to get this right. It's a herd of impala. I haven't seen any lambs, but that doesn't mean they're not there. The minute one impala spots her, it's game over. Impalas stand their ground against predators. So she's really got to rely on that element of surprise. So she's just been hiding through all the various different vegetation, going from one spot to another. And she knows exactly where they are. Come on, Tandy girl, go get your breakfast. Now, the success rate for leopards in the Kruger is around 16%, which is very low. It was on a study that came out quite a few years ago now, so it could have changed. But it doesn't always result in success for leopards. They will try and they will try and they will try. And if they don't succeed, they'll snack along the way. Squirrels, scrap hares, dwarf mongoose. Anything they can find, even the old tortoise. Now I can no longer see the impala, but I know they're there. Sassy Cassie, she does look beautiful. She is beautiful. She's such a fantastic leopardess. She's given us the Kalamba, of course, and Kuchava. Now, we don't see Kuchava too often, but with our new traverse, hopefully we'll see Kuchava a lot more. So the Karula lineage is still very strong in this part of the Sabi Sands. Come on, Tandy, you know the impala are there. Oh, Linda, many differences. I would show you a picture in my book, but I think for now, just in case Tandy makes a dash for it, we'll keep the camera on Tandy. They're both apex predators, and although Tandy's very active right now, leopards are generally speaking said to be nocturnal, and cheetahs are diurnal, which means they hunt mostly during the day. Now, this is not really the environment for cheetahs out here. It's far too dense, it's far too thick. Cheetahs are highly visual, and they need large open clearings to pick up that speed, remarkable speed that cheetahs run at. They need to sort of gather momentum and go. And if you look at the area here in the Sabi Sands, far too much vegetation. They'll end up running into a tree and knocking themselves out. Cheetahs are much taller, long legs. Leopards are quite short and stocky. They're far heavier. They've got a lot more muscles, whereas cheetahs are very thin. Very, very sort of light on their feet because they have to be in order to run that fast. Leopards do run fast, but only for short bursts. Their strength lies in their power and the ability to hoist. Now, visually, leopards actually have rosettes. If you just look down Tandy's body here, you'll see it's not actually a spot. We call it a rosette, sort of black dots with a browny colour in the middle, whereas cheetahs do have spots. Cheetahs also have the famous tear mark running down their face, from their tear duct, if you like, down the side of their nose to their mouth. And that's the main giveaway. If you're really unsure, are you looking at a leopard? Are you looking at a cheetah? Although they're really not that similar, you would just look for that tear mark. And I will show you an image later, but I'm hesitant to take the camera off Tandy in case we miss her make a dash for it. You'd be surprised, once she makes a decision to go, she'll go. She's in the shade as well. So she's keeping cool. And then slowly but surely, hopefully she's going to move towards these impala. FC, what is the temperature right now? I'm intrigued to know. It was 19 when we first came out at about 2.5 hours ago. I'm intrigued to know what the change in temperature is. (23 degrees Celsius), a markup of 4 degrees already. Oof. Jim, you're asking, is Tandy hesitant because it's so hot? I don't think so. Leopards normally do ponder their kills for quite a long time. I'm really not sure why she's so hesitant. I think she just knows she needs to get it right. She's probably recuperating. She's panting. But you see, she's completely alert. She knows exactly where they are. I don't have a clue. She'll be able to hear them. I don't think she's hesitant. I think she's just biding her time. I have spent many afternoons and mornings with Tandy where she's like this, and all of a sudden, boom, within a fraction of a second, she's up and gone with the prey species in her mouth. But it's only going to get hotter. Here we go, here we go. See? She just knows that the minute she's seen it's game over, she has to leave the area and go to a completely different area and start again. So I think that's why she's hesitant. She's keeping low. If you look at Tandy's little body, she's very short. She's quite stocky. The supermodels of the bush are definitely the cheetahs, or at least of the cats with their long legs. You see that? She's moving in, excuse our area, she's going right behind the car, but she's going into the vegetation to watch. You see that? Everything's done with remarkable amounts of precision, but the impala, as far as I'm aware, are still quite far off. Okay, she really is going behind the vehicle now. I'm afraid we may have to reposition, as long as we don't disturb her. I think Tandy would look nice with long green hair. Okay, she's moving now. We can't follow with the camera. She's gone behind the vehicle. We're going to need to completely reposition, but I feel she's just a little bit too close now, and I don't want to disturb the hunt. So this is all we can work with. Now, summertime breeze. Oh, there's the back of our car. Isn't that beautiful? Well done, Theo. Gwen, if you could just let us know you're still there. KFC for a second there. It was very quiet. Okay, we are going to try and reposition, and hopefully Tandy's going to get lucky.
Well, always nice to see leopard. They're here, but very, very rarely seen because they're very secretive and there is too much cover. And apart from that, we have too many hyenas and lions, so we don't necessarily see them until you're very lucky. But I'm on a mission because I saw something resembling a lion from a distance. And I think it's a lion. Sometimes it can be a rock. We call it a rockosaurus. And sometimes it's a lion. So I'm headed there. I'm in the middle of the plains in Olpunyata swamp. And everywhere I'm driving, there's a sound of water being hit by a tire. I'm going, wacha, wacha, wacha. And it's very tricky right now. I could sink anytime. So I have to be very, very watchful. And it's very, wet and also very thick grass. So a small mistake can cost me a few hours and a lot of energy trying to dig myself out. But I'm lucky. I've driven in this area for a good number of years. So there's some experiences that have, remind me of some areas, and I have to be very careful. I saw 3 giraffes somewhere here. They're facing that direction. Took my binoculars and I looked down, and I think there is some lions, and that's where I'm headed. These areas, binoculars are very useful. This is where you come and your binoculars and say this is where they are meant to be used, because these wide open places, you can be driving aimlessly and driving past lions, leopards and hyenas if you don't stop and take a good look. I've just arrived to where my giraffes are. I can see them with my bare eyes now over there. And so from here, I'm able maybe to spot my rockosaurus or some lions. So in a short while, I'll be stopping to take a better look. Hence the name of this area, swamp. It can be very, very, very wet. But I'm driving on some thick grass, which also help not to sink. I see the giraffes, they're here. And so it's a matter of spotting. It's a matter of actually just maybe spotting the lions now. While driving like this, I could come across anything that could stop me from going for the lions, because these are perfect territories and also habitat for other cats and carnivores like hyena, leopard, and even cheetah. Any time now, I'll be able to see my rocks or my lions. Let's take a look. I think I have to drive closer because I can't see them from here. But definitely they were in front of me somewhere. So I have to drive a little bit more. Well, I think the best thing to do is for me to continue driving and spot them while we take you to another live location.
Much like us, we've been driving and trying to spot this guy properly. A nice big elephant bull. But with all the thickness going on in the bush at the moment, and the fact that he's in the middle of a block, every now and then we're just seeing a glimpse of the tusk. But that's good enough for me because I love, love, love elephants. If I don't get my fix for each game drive, not even per day, but per game drive, then things can get crazy. So I'm glad that we got to see this guy. And we're on our way to Buffelshoek Dam, where I was hoping that maybe we'd see a big breeding herd having some fun in the water. And we'll continue with that mission. Even though I've gotten my fix with this one.
Well, I don't know if I'll find my lions. They're somewhere here. Oh, yes! Here they are. Lying flat after spotting them from a distance. There they are. We'll share them with you before I get close. Yeah, there they are. Always nice to see them from a distance. There they are. They've lied flat. I'm glad I spotted them before they lied flat. It could have been very, very difficult to spot them. Nice. It looks like a female and two older cubs. This is from the Owino Pride. Yes. No! Look at this. Unbelievable. This is the Olololo female. She is so far. She has crossed Mugoro and Owino Pride's territory. She's right in the middle. No wonder Olalashe is very worried. Whoa, whoa, whoa. This is amazing, guys. I cannot believe this. This is a very, very long way. And this is why science hasn't really given us an answer to everything about nature. Because, you know, you'd believe that a territory remains a territory and nobody was trespassed to somebody else's territory. But look at this. This is prime Mugoro and Owino's territory. And these girls have walked almost 20 miles. This is where they are. No wonder Kijana and Olalashe are very worried because maybe they cannot even hear their calls. Unbelievable. Anyway, first things first. These are the Olololo Pride. 100%. She's the only lioness that is collared in the triangle. And the last time I saw her was about a week. And this is, as the crow flies, to her territory about, I'll give it a good 20 miles. A very, very, very long way. Means she has trespassed into other females' territory, which means there is a lot of risk being killed by other lionesses for trespassing. And she doesn't look even worried at all. I'm amazed. I thought it was the Wino female. She hangs around with her two cubs, but it's the Olololos, the collared female, and her two daughters who are actually adults now. And all of them just mated about 3 weeks ago. And it's just proves to me that we still have a lot to learn about, you know, these great predators. I think lack of enough large game in their territory, only buffalo, giraffe, hippo, has forced them to come towards this beautiful spot that is always full of zebras, topi, waterback. So they've come here for that. Remember, we're live. Continue talking to us on #WildEarth. Questions and comments are still very, very welcome. And I'm so glad that it was true. These giraffes helped me spot those lions. They have amazing eyesight, giraffes. Their height is a good advantage to spot prey like hyena, leopard, and lion. And 100%, I spotted them looking this direction. I spotted these 3 lionesses walking, but they lay down. And the good thing is the giraffe continued to face into that direction, and I followed where they were looking, and I've found them. How lucky is that? I wish every day was like today. Is it Lathan? Jumbo, what would happen if other prides found out they're in their territory? I hope that is the right phrase or the right question you ask. It is not going to go very well. And the Owino pride, they're about 5 lionesses. Finding these 3 lionesses, one might lose its life because 3 will be too much. They'll concentrate on one. 2 might get away, but 1 might lose its life. Competition for territory and food is the main existence, or the main reason why these cats fight. And finding another cat in your territory means that he or she has broken the rules, and the only punishment is death. Sometimes they survive, but they live with consequences, wounds, scars that sometimes can take years to heal, or can make a permanent mark on their bodies that will last a lifetime. So it is very risky because they will kill each other for prime territories. And you can tell these girls have come to Mugoro and Owino's boundary for some, much needed food. It's hard to believe how far they've walked. Yeah, unbelievable. Yes, that is the mother of the 2 sleeping facing away. Looks like they've eaten really well, and so they'll be either heading back towards their territory, or they'll stick here if they think they can face anybody who's coming. I'm gonna stay here for a little bit more, just take in everything, because I'm so shocked as we take you to the next location.
So you might look at this picture that we've got and wonder what exactly we've got on the screen. And what's amazing about this is all different species of grasses. Now, what's very interesting about grass is that it produces flowers just like any other plant. So you can see just over here, we've got some flowering sawtooth lovegrass. Now, the wind has picked up a little bit, so it's a bit windy. But what's amazing about it is that we love, as human beings, homogenized societies and gardens and images where everything is the same. Like grass must all look uniform and be neat and cut. But when you just walk around, and this was collected in one 5-meter squared patch of bushveld, and there are at least 6 different species of grass here. And if you look at them, they're all so intricate and beautiful. We've got the Natal red top, which is this fluffy looking one over here, which is really one of the most spectacular grasses. Look at the seeds, how they're in this little fluffy encased pod. And then you've got blue seed grass, which is one of my favorites, which is at the back here, which I can't really point out very easily. But there's just so many different species and shapes of grass. And you can see all the little furry bits coming. This is all the flowers that are busy releasing pollen. They're all wind pollinated. So this one here is actually buffalo thorn. Sorry, not buffalo thorn, buffalo grass, which is one of the most palatable and tasty grass species. And what's really, really great about this is that you can do the same thing in your garden at home. Let your garden grow. Maybe just a corner of it, let it grow. See what else is amongst the grass. Let it flower. Give food for the bees and the insects. Let them pollinate and do the things that they do. and your garden will be so much happier for it. It's going to be really, really good for it. So have a look one day at your garden in a corner when you leave it and see what grows. You might be quite pleasantly surprised. Gorgeous.
Welcome back to the Mara, and we've found two male lions. See one to the right, but the one to the left just moved off from the termite mound into the grass. He's staring at something. There's some zebras and some toppies right in front of where he's looking at. Seems like two brothers, and because they are solid, they form a coalition and they always walk together. So they hunt on their own. They take down prey because they're very, very strong. Even though sometimes lions are regarded not to be very active in hunting, but these two have no option. See that one just behind that termite mound? Very nice looking mane. Something has got to their attention, and it looks like those zebras that are closing the gap, walking towards us. But I can see some two toppies up on the termite mound. We call them the watchmen of the savannah. So they will always alert whatever prey is close to them for would-be predators. Zebras also have a very sharp eye, and you can see they're all staring at this direction. The reason being they can see the mane of the other lion. And that is what has caused lions not to be active in hunting, because their mane sometimes deter out prey when they're out to hunt. Most of the time you find that males in big prides will always assist when it comes to bringing down big prey, like buffalo and giraffe, big eland. So that's the reason why the lionesses will always be hunting, because when they're out stalking, prey cannot see them because they don't have mane. But secondly, the mane comes in handy for these lions because it acts as an intimidator to other young lions who they might come across to, and females will always prefer lions with such big mane. So it comes with an advantage and a disadvantage as well. Lions will sleep for about, males will sleep longer than females. Males can sleep at about 16 hours a day. Females can sleep to up to 12 hours a day, depending on if they've had a full belly. So most of the time you find that these male lions will sleep longer than the lionesses. These two seems like they were walking and then came to this spot to take a rest. You can see the zebras and the topi. The only problem is they're out in the open and it's a little bit difficult for him to get closer and maybe go out on a hunt. And it's also, those zebras and topis have already seen them. So it's going to be very hard for these two to even get closer to them. You see, the topis are super alert because where we are on a raised ground, and it's easy for the topis and the zebra to see the lions. I'm going to find out what's going to happen in the next couple of minutes as I take you over to another live location.
Well, from lions to lionesses, this definitely, and you'll all agree with me, a part of the Olololo. I don't know what to say, but experiencing and seeing what has been going on in the triangle for the last 3 months, gets me back to my books, and I ask myself a lot of questions. We used to have lots of lions, big prides. About 2 years ago, the river pride was over 13. Olololo was over 18. Owino were the smallest. There were about 9 of them. Sausage Tree Pride were about 14. Mugoro, there were about 7. Salt Lake, there were about almost 12 lions and lionesses. But come this year, it's very different. The most I've seen together has been 7, and that was about almost 10 days ago when Olalashe and Kijana had a fight with Blondie and they chased him. Then a few days later, I saw Olalashe, Kijana, and 5 lionesses. That is the most. And considering Sammy, thank you for your question. Will they return back to their territory? Definitely yes. They are just here because survival and hunger has gotten a better part of their life, and it made them to come here just to get some food, and they will go back. I don't think they will stay here for another 1 day. They will get back. It might take them 3 days to get back to the edge of their territory, and so they will get back. So something is happening with the lions in the triangle. They are very scattered. We are finding females by themselves. We're finding them in very different corners of other lions' territories. So definitely, I wait to see in the next coming months exactly what's going to happen. Once they give cubs in January, because they mated about 3 weeks ago, I estimate about January 15th to end of January we'll have cubs. Yeah, she's eating a bit of grass. Usually when they have an upset stomach, they will eat grass. Helps them, get rid of whatever is upsetting their tummy. So it is so beautiful and amazing at the same time, and shocking to see these Olololo lionesses this far. I'm going to leave them and head out. And as while we do that, let's take you to another live location.
We had to leave Tandy, I'm afraid. So from one carnivore to another, we've gone from one at the very top to the smallest carnivore found out here in the Lowveld, the dwarf mongoose. And I believe we interrupted a bit of a moment that these mongooses were having with the yellow-billed hornbills. Not intentionally, of course. But just as the mongoose have relationships with many different organisms out here, the giant plated lizard being one of them, they also regularly fraternize with the yellow hornbills. And they assist one another in hunting. And sometimes you will find the hornbills actually come to wake the mongoose up, because they're a little bit on the lazy side, and they don't really like to wake up until the sun is up and it's nice and warm and it's clear skies. So sometimes the hornbills will actually come to the mound and try to wake them up. I guess you could call them competitors in a way. Interspecific competition. Because essentially they're hunting the same things. But instead of competing, they actually assist one another in doing so. Look out for one another. They're not going to harm one another, but they are after the same food resource. So I'm not sure if Tandy made that kill or not. I will get the update for you. But sadly, we had to leave. There's other vehicles wanting to see the Queen. Jim, cute indeed. And the smallest of smallest mounds. That is really not a big termite mound at all. Oh, but it's clearly big enough for the mongoose family. We see you. I wonder if the rest of the gang maybe haven't woken up yet. I mean, it's 8:30 here, or around about. It's definitely possible that they've just not woken up yet. They like their early nights and their long lies. They really do, just like meerkats, assess the situation before leaving the safety of a mound. Although they are fantastic carnivores and hunters, they're also very vulnerable. They're sized, they're easy snacks. Not just from the ground, they've not only got to worry about terrestrial predators, they've also got aerial predators to worry about. Raptors, who could easily and silently swoop down and pick up mongoose in their talons. They look very cute to us, actually, Jim. But I'm sure if you're a bit of a locust or a beetle or even a centipede, you're not probably going to think they're very cute. They're thy enemy. Scorpions. Dangerous scorpions, equipped with a violent tail and a suit of armor in the form of their exoskeleton. Dwarf mongoose will hunt them and know exactly how to take down a scorpion. We're still due a lot of water. Although it's looking very green and very thick, we still have not had enough sort of water to really kickstart summer. It started, but it needs to sort of go va-va-voom. The frogs are not really calling, there's no tadpoles, there's birds that haven't sort of landed yet, insects that are not here yet, so it really hasn't properly kicked into full bloom. So I'm going to try and race to the hyena den, not sure if I'll make it, for one last check.
Dwarf mongoose are very exciting animals, and following their behavior and instincts is very, very nice to learn. Now here, our lion is still asleep, but at intervals of about 4 to 3 minutes, it keeps on raising its head, scanning the area to check out if those zebras are closing the gap or not. But it seems like the zebras are not walking here anytime soon. They've changed direction with the topies. I can see them going around. See, one of the top is alert as the other ones carry on eating. After they're sure that the predator is not getting closer to them, they always walk away. But most of the time we find that when prey spots predator, they will try and come to investigate what's happening. This is an area where there's lots of bush, so it's a little bit warm because out in the open, very chilly at the moment because of the rains last night. We don't have white lions in the Mara, specifically because of the genes that have always been around this area. So we currently don't have white lions, but sometimes we have other animals who fall into melanism, so or leucistic rather, so where they're becoming white, especially birds. I've seen lots of leucistic bird species here, but for lions, no white lions. So as this one keeps on sleeping, the other one keeps on looking around. The reason why there's lots of flies in lions is because when you look carefully, you find that between the hind legs, there's always lots of flies, and across the face. This means that when the lions urinate, it attracts more flies because of the moisture. And across the face, after they've already fed, you find that there's lots of flies. It's, I would say, sometimes because of moisture. This is what that attracts flies, and after they fed, it's also a reason why, because of the stains of blood that will form on their face, and as they clean that, there's that smell that is still there that also attracts the flies. And that's the reason why these lions have come to sleep next to the croton bushes, because the crotons, they've come to find out that these act as a very good repellent for insects. I'm still going to spend some few time with these lions as I take you over to another live location.
From one pride of lion to another, here at Anbion Phinda Private Game Reserve, we came back to have a look and see what these lions were up to. And just as we predicted, they are... Sorry about that, everyone. I left my radio a little bit loud there. They are very sleepy lions. You can see the one on the far right is actually, it's got its head in quite a funny position. It's leaning down. You can actually see it's panting quite heavily as well. You can see that very full belly. So I think they are sleeping off quite the meal. And you can imagine, actually, to feed this whole pride, it must have been something quite big. The other day we did drive around an area close by here, and there was a huge amount of vulture activity. But because it was quite a low, the tree line was really low. There weren't very many trees in that area at all. The vultures were sort of scattered all over the area, sort of resting wherever they could find a spot where it was high enough that they felt comfortable. So it was really difficult to pinpoint, where this carcass might be, because there was quite low-lying shrubs, making it really difficult to see into that area. It was pretty much like a kilometre squared area that these vultures were scattered around. But we did think that there was most likely some lion activity just based on the amount of vultures and the fact that it was quite an open area. A lot of things pointed to the fact that it might have been some lions that had made a kill. So, Gigi, it will differ based on the males and the females. Now, the females will tend to stay with a pride for life. That being said, there can be some interesting pride dynamics that will make them split off. For instance, this pride, you can see we generally only see the 5 cubs with the 2 lionesses. And that's because the other lionesses at the moment aren't feeding incredibly well on the same carcasses. These mothers will be very protective of their cubs and try and drive off the lionesses, and so that their cubs can feed first. Now, that's not really in the interest of the other lionesses that want to spend their time at the moment trying to mate with the males and trying to have cubs of their very own. So that's where their priority is. So it's not that they've split completely, they've just left the pride for a little bit at the moment, and when they have cubs they might actually rejoin in a pride like this. It really depends on what their best interest is, but they still are considered a pride, and they're not going to act aggressively towards each other if they see them. So that's a long sort of winded way of saying the lionesses will stay with the pride for their entire lives most of the time. The males, when they grow up to be about 2 years old, you're going to start seeing that the dominant coalition is going to start driving them away from the pride, because now they're potential threat, and also it's extra food that these males, when they come to the pride, they could be eating as opposed to these younger males. So they're going to start driving them away, and by about 2.5, those males will become nomadic. Now, when they're nomadic, they walk around trying to avoid any dominant coalitions in the area. And once they've reached about 3.5 to 4 years old, generally it's about 4 to 5 that they become territorial. We have seen males here be territorial at 3.5. Then they're going to start looking for territory and start actively scent marking and challenging a coalition for the right to take over that territory. And with all that being said, these males here, they won't stay on Pinda. We're going to remove them to a different reserve once they get to that stage, because we don't want them mating with their own sisters. It's an enclosed area. Katie, thank you very much for that comment. It is a beautiful scene. It's always lovely when you can see lions, especially, somewhere like this. I'm sure you're thinking of the Lion King, as am I. And you see some lions lying on a rock, sort of overlooking their territory. It's quite a majestic sort of moment. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there a little bit. So the males, once they get to the age where they're going to become dominant, we're going to remove them to a different reserve, and that's just to keep the genes fresh, because otherwise they'll end up taking over the territory, because I think there are 3 males in the set of cubs, so they'll be a bigger coalition than their fathers are. Their fathers are only 2 males, so they'll actually have the numbers in their advantage and could overtake the territory. And then, of course, they'd end up mating with their sisters and aunts, and that wouldn't be very good for our genetic diversity. So we'll send it to another reserve, and possibly later on also get a new set of males. The second the cubs of our dominant coalition in the area reach breeding age, our males are going to also be sent to another area, and we'll bring in new males so that they can take over the territory. Otherwise, those males will end up mating with their very own cubs. It is just such a lovely sleeping scene. You can see those beautiful spots on these cubs. Those will fade with age. Less so with the lionesses. I'm sure you've all noticed the male lions, you very seldom actually see the remains of those spots. But the lionesses, you'll see the remains of the spots quite frequently. So I think we are going to leave these lions. They are clearly down for the afternoon. You know, they found a little patch of shade. They seem unbelievably comfortable right now. They don't seem to have a care in the world. So we are going to leave them to it, and we are going to see if we can find anything else for you.
It's a lion nap time here in the Mara, and our two lions are very much relaxed, taking a nap and taking intervals to actually scan the ground. This looks like a perfect place for them to spend the day. So eventually I would have to leave this area and then maybe come back in the evening or late afternoon to find out if they're still here or maybe they moved on. There's concern about our little Bahati, or whether we'll be able to see him. Unfortunately, we've not come across Bahati. We've not seen him for about, it's 2 weeks now. I saw the mother mating with Olalashe, and it raised my eyebrows of Bahati's whereabouts. So sometimes lions might hide their cubs to protect them, and they come into a situation where we call false estrus, where they'll come and mate with the lion just to protect the cubs. But from that situation where I thought she might have lost the cub, but I'll be concerned, or I'll not point out that maybe the cub is dead or not. I'm not quite sure. But as the third week, we'll be trying to check, and if Bahati is still there, the mom will always bring him out to come and visit the entire family or the entire pride of the Olololo. So at the moment, I'll not say Bahati is alive or not, but fingers crossed. Let's hope Bahati is still there. But on the situation that I saw the mother mating Lalashe, I'm not quite sure. So these two seems like they are not the prime males of this area. I think these are from the Egyptian goose. I'm not quite sure, but it looks like it's not their area where we always find them, because I've always seen them just close to our border of Kenya and Tanzania, roaming out and sometimes getting over to the Egyptian goose area. Very, very beautiful skyline on the top of Olololo escarpment. This morning we had lots of mist around that area. It looked very nice, and I was a little bit worried if I'll see lions, but it's always nice when you get to see the unexpected. Our zebras have walked over, quite sure that the lions are sleeping. I can see them grazing over in the distance, quite happy. Our second lion has tucked in his face on the ground. I'm sure there's lots of flies that were bothering him on his face. That's why he's tucked in his face. I'd like to come back to this spot.
The cutest thing you will see all day. The lambs. It's Theo's first lamb. There's actually 3 here that I've managed to count. And they've obviously joined with the herd. There's a male in charge. So he's got his harem. And he's also got little lambs as well. Oh, look at the 2 lambs together. Oh! You can see their bodies don't look quite right. They've got really long, gangly legs and, well, small little bodies. But they can run. Any sign of a threat, any reaction from mom, and they will run. They're already aware that they must follow mom's actions, and there's lots of threats around. Lots of threats. Now, apparently Tandy's not made a successful kill. I asked for an update. She's still in the same position and hasn't killed yet. Theo, I'm just going to move forward for you. But that doesn't mean she won't successfully hunt by the afternoon. I think that's a nice view there. Unless the little lamb decides to walk away. They really don't stray too far from mum. And although the herd life for an impala offers protection, it does offer some safety, it's not entirely altruistic, not at all. It's quite a selfish way of protecting oneself. You can only care about your survival. I'm going to move forward. This isn't the best view. Your survival, not the survival of your herd. If there's 100 impala altogether in a herd, then you have 1 in 100 chance of being taken by the predators. And there's a lamb through there. But if there's only 5 of you, then you have 1 in 5 chance of being taken by the predators. If you're on your own, then you're on your own, and you have a high chance of being snapped up by the jaws of the likes of Tandy or Tungano or Kalamba.
Eating is much as they eating more.
I have no idea how fast a baby impala can run. Very fast. Very, very fast. I'm not sure they're fully equipped to run at the speeds of mom, but they really can keep up with the herd because they have to. So within minutes, they're already trying to stand. Within half an hour, they're already walking, and within the hour, they're running. That's the sort of really quick development of a precocial offspring of a prey species like impala. Zebra are the same. Many of the antelope species are the same. If they couldn't keep up with the herd, then unfortunately they're in trouble. There wouldn't be many that would survive. But as for speeds, I have no idea. Yeah, I was just going to point that one out, that little lamb there. Now they vocalize, mom vocalizes, "Where are you, baby? Where are you?" And the lamb recognizes mom's call. And if they do get separated, that's how they reunite. And one of the sort of sadder things to witness out here is when you've just watched a predator take one of the lambs and you can see mom calling. And you just know she's calling for that one that's in the jaws of Tungano. It's sad. But I would really love to know the survival rate of all the lambs, at least in this environment, in the sands. I would say 50%. I really don't know. But what it does mean is quarantine will become a hubbub of activity. We normally find a really sort of high concentration of the predators on quarantine during summer season. And it's for the lambs, or after the lambs at the end of the day. It's a good thing for us to view the predators, but sadly, it's not great news for the population of impalas. But there's still many ewes that are pregnant. As we drive around, they haven't all given birth. And it's an environmental cue that sort of stimulates the rutting season, so everything happens at the one time. Within about a 2-week period, all the ewes are said to get pregnant. And of course that means within a 2-week period, all the ewes will give birth at the same time, flooding the market with baby impala lambs. Oh, excuse me, I just sneezed, sorry about that. It's a lovely way to wrap up the drive. But talking of wrapping up the drive, it has came to that time in the afternoon where we must say thank you to everyone for jumping on board. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for all your comments and questions, and we shall see you out this afternoon. Have a great day.